All right, today we're digging into the hidden architecture of finance. We're going to look at three really powerful tools that the pros use to sort through risk, absorb massive financial shocks, and basically prepare for disaster, all to keep the whole system stable.
I mean, think about it. This question touches everything from our insurance policies to our retirement funds. So, is it all just a giant high-stakes guessing game, or is there actually a system designed to handle the chaos?
Well, there absolutely is a system. And in this explainer, we're going to crack open that professional toolkit. We're talking about the core strategies they use to manage all that uncertainty and make sure that when the time comes, the money's actually there. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We'll start with the basic framework they all use, then we'll get into three specific tools. One for sorting risks, one for absorbing shocks, and one for testing the system's strength. And then we'll tie it all together to see the big picture.
First things first, let's lay the foundation. How on earth do you even start to manage risks that might not show up for, like, 50 years?
It's definitely not guesswork. See, professionals don't just react to problems as they happen. They operate inside this continuous loop that's designed to anticipate, solve, and learn from them. It's called the actuarial control cycle, and it's basically the operating system for financial risk management. Now, this might look like a simple little three-step process, but the real magic here is that it's a loop that never ends. You define a risk, you build a model to handle it, and then, and this is the most crucial part, you watch what actually happens in the real world. All that new data constantly feeds back in, making the model smarter and better over time. It's a cycle of learning and adapting over and over again. So, with that framework in mind, let's grab our first tool from the toolkit. This one is all about sorting risks based on one supercritical factor: time. And that brings us to our first key concept, something called short-tailed business. It sounds a little technical, but all it really means is financial promises where the outcome is known and paid out really quickly.
The best way to understand this is to see them side by side. On the left, you've got short-tailed business. Think about a car insurance claim for a cracked windshield. The event happens, the claim gets filed, and it's all paid and done within a few weeks. The final cost is known almost right away. But on the right, long-tailed business, whoa, that is a whole different animal. Imagine a huge liability claim from industrial pollution. That could take decades to finally settle in court. The final cost is a massive unknown. By splitting promises up this way, companies can manage their money way more effectively for both the short term and the long haul.
Okay, so you've sorted your risks by how long they'll take to play out. But how do you build a system that's strong enough to take a punch when something totally unexpected happens? Well, that brings us to our second tool, the financial safety net.
This is where something called subordinated debt comes into play. The key word here is subordinated, which basically just means it's lower down in the pecking order. If a company gets into big financial trouble, this type of debt is specifically designed to get paid back after other more important debts are taken care of. I love this analogy. Think of a company's obligations like something fragile you're putting in a shipping box. The promises made to customers and policyholders, that's the really important stuff inside. Subordinated debt is like a crucial inner layer of bubble wrap. It's designed to get crushed first if the box gets dropped, absorbing the impact so those critical promises don't break. So in a crisis, there's a very clear order for who takes the loss. First, the company's owners, the equity holders, they get hit first. Their investment can get totally wiped out. That's your first line of defense. Next up, that subordinated debt we just talked about takes the hit. It's the cushion. And only after those two layers are completely gone is the most protected layer, the senior debt, ever at risk. This hierarchy is a fundamental pillar of financial stability.
So you have your risks all categorized and your safety nets built. But how do you know if they're actually strong enough? You run a fire drill.
And that's exactly what stress testing is. The goal isn't to predict the future. It's to simulate these extreme but plausible disasters to see if the system breaks. And the key words there are extreme but plausible. So we're not talking about alien invasions. We're talking about severe recessions, market crashes, or major natural catastrophes.
And a good stress test isn't one-dimensional. It's not just asking, hey, what if the market crashes? It's about figuring out the whole domino effect, how major market turmoil affects all the variables at once, and making sure all those connections make sense. You have to model how all the pieces of the puzzle might fall apart together.
And here are some very real examples they use. What happens if the stock market takes a 40% nosedive? Or a massive hurricane slams into a populated city? What if a global pandemic completely changes life expectancy? By running these intense what-if scenarios, regulators and companies can find the weak spots before a real crisis does.
Okay, so let's bring this all together now.
How does this whole toolkit of kind of abstract ideas actually build a resilient financial system that impacts all of us? So, let's recap. You categorize risk with concepts like short-tailed business to manage your cash flow. Then you build in those capital buffers using subordinated debt to absorb shocks. And finally, you test that whole structure with stress testing to make sure it can actually survive a crisis. Each tool plays a really distinct and critical role in the system.
At the end of the day, these tools aren't just for bankers or actuaries. They are the hidden architecture of our financial world, a system that's designed to uphold promises and maintain stability, even when the world feels anything but stable.
We've just pulled back the curtain on the hidden architecture of finance. Kind of makes you wonder, right? What other complex, invisible systems are quietly working all around us, keeping our world running? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.